Creatives, community, kind folks out there. Hello, welcome to RPG with DBJ. We are once again going through our what we can steal, what we can take, what we can uncover about the characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what we can take and use in our RPG games. Of course, this is in direct relation to the 22nd movie in the MCU, Avengers Endgame. So we're leading up into that, and then of course Game of Thrones is coming up. So each week we're going back and forth. But this week we're going into some of the biggest and baddest MCU characters. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to do the Hulk today, and later on in the week we're doing Ant-Man and Doctor Strange and Thanos, even Scarlet Witch. So let's get into it. Deadman says, question, did you see the Gearbox software announcement at PAX East about the Claptrap Builder card game and Borderlands 3? No, I did not. I'm going to have to delve into that. Sorry, man. When I'm not broadcasting, it's usually like wife time. So sorry about that. But I will take a look at it. Normally, during I work outside, and so I usually catch up on those things during the week. So sorry about that, man. But I'll definitely check it out. I know it's like 'tis the season for new announcements, whether it's like Google Stadia and other things like that. Yeah, Zevron says, posted a pic in the Discord. The new She-Ra show is making an RPG. That's a loaded comment there as well. As a fan, I'm hyped. Yes. As a child of the 80s, hell yeah. But I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know. All right. So okay, before we get squirreled here, and I don't care if it's for kids, I enjoy it. Listen, I'm not hating on you, dude. Man, I was a He-Man and Black Star fan, Silverhawks and all that stuff. Yeah, we're gonna have to do. It's gonna be for old dudes, man. But I could see us doing a whole show just on our favorite like kids shows, because there really isn't. That kind of doesn't exist now, not in the manner in which it existed back in the 80s, where you had to run home and see the specific show at a specific time. Yeah. But anyway, let's get into the Hulk, man. Let's get into the Dr. David Bruce Banner. Let's get into what we can take, steal, rip from, what we could take from those things. Yeah. Oh man, there was a ton of them there, and I guarantee you there are plenty of websites and YouTube videos dedicated to celebrating those shows. Although you and I know that they were basically half-hour commercials, so kids could bother their parents to get them the cereal or toys or comic books or what have you. But anyway, the Hulk. Who or what is the Hulk? Well, all right. The Hulk is and we need to be generalized here, because some people are not really fans of these characters, but I still think there's something we can learn from them. So the Hulk is generally the idea of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the mild-mannered scientist who's through accident and purpose tries to uncover something that has not been uncovered before, and somewhat curses or blesses or irradiates themselves, and something inside them grows. Something inside them grows, and through a course of actions, usually being threatened or seeing others threatened or being angered or abused, their mild manner, their intelligence flips a switch, and they become the opposite of their normal guys, and they become this monstrous beast that ravages things and takes revenge on those that deserve it, which I think sometimes is underemphasized. And the individual must live with, once the threat is gone, and those that are punished are are ripped limb from limb and thrown miles away. Um, yeah, they once again return to their normal lives and have to live with the repercussions, right? So yeah, in ancient literature, definitely Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Um, you could even throw in the classic werewolf, lycanthropy into that, but the Hulk takes that to the extreme. Rickard says, and here and ready to smash that chat. Yeah, Hulk, ooh, smash. Right? Rickard says, so a wizard barbarian multi-class? Possibly. It wouldn't be the most effective class, except in a game in which that makes a lot of sense, right? But so yes, or a sage barbarian, and playing it with the I am intelligent sometimes, but then I go crazy and become this other thing and just do it narratively. As everyone says, the Hulk as an NPC could be interesting. Perhaps he hasn't gotten his Hulk transformation just yet. Maybe after knowing the knowing the NPCs for a while, a couple of levels of adventures, he lets them know he has been conducting a magic ritual or scientific experiment, or depending on the origins, maybe it was conducted on them as well. Although I think it makes it far more. I think it's more interesting to have this individual do it to themselves, uh, knowingly or unknowingly finding out that there's something about it that's wrong. Says I meant meant PC. Oh, I understand. So after they had knowing the PCs for a while, the NPC that knows the PCs for a while, like you said, a couple of levels of adventure, he lets them know he's conducted some kind of magic ritual or scientific experiment or something. Yes, because no matter how dangerous, not no matter, but the level of danger that the transformation causes should equalize the care and concern and attachment to this NPC if you're creating them as an NPC, especially if this individual do the classic village being terrorized by an outside threat, and this person conducts a ritual or does a chemical, finds some kind of chemical or potion, or pleads for a greater power or something to transform them to protect their village, but then it gets out of control. It's the I want to become a vampire, I want to become a lycanthrope, I want to become a monster. And you don't have to relate it to things that automatically do that. You could have the village mayor becomes a troll or something, or a fire giant or what have you, or some other kind of beastie, temporarily, but then loses control of it. Rickard says 2 different character sheets. DM makes player roll to see when the barbarian becomes active. Yeah. And now, mind you, that's a trope that some players have tried to make up, right? The split personality character, that kind of thing. As everyone says, it's more of a dramatic tragedy knowing he did it to himself. Exactly, especially when done in a manner. Especially when done absolutely for the right reasons, because the Hulk himself, the David Bruce Banner character, has had his origin modified a couple of times. One classic one is that an experiment with gamma radiation was done. Of course, this is during the Cold War, so a lot of magical characters were transferred into scientific experiment characters. So like just like Green Lantern used to be a magical character, and then when they brought him into the Hal Jordan version, he became scientific. This could be the same way. And so, of course, Bruce Banner sees his friend or something or someone driving through a place he shouldn't be, pushes the person into a pit to protect them, and then the gamma radiation goes off, and then he's affected. So this is even not even like, hey, I tried to do an experiment, but I was trying to save someone else, and then I was affected. It could be a PC character could have tried to save his tribes people or villagers that were kidnapped for an ancient ritual, and pushes them out of the pentagram or something, or the sacrificial altar, and is left standing there on the altar, and then they are affected by it, whether it's energy that comes from another dimension, or the scientific, the nanotech or something pours out of the machine, or falls into a vat of something nasty, or is bitten by a creature that is infectious or something. So absolutely makes it much more tragic, because the initial purpose of the PCs is, hey, kill the bad thing, right? It's ravaging the countryside, kill the bad thing. But when they realize that it's this mild-mannered individual, when it's this person that they care about that's inside, that can become a problem, especially if the innocent orphan kid becomes a Tarrasque and starts rampaging around. Deadman says the link to the Borderlands 3 game is on your Facebook. Why, thank you. Thank you very much. I like the original Borderlands. I wish I followed video games closer, but I don't. I'm usually a couple of steps behind. So everyone says, I actually want to discuss with DBJ a potential story idea. The villain is a powerful character split into pieces. A tiefling high-powered wizard casts a spell removing their demon side to pursue their lust for power without the limits of being mortal, but another time. Well, not exactly. Well, it may not be as specific as you'd like, but a tiefling idea is perfectly possible in our context, right? Like tiefling, dragonborn, whatever you have, right? So, for example, a character, you don't need to have tieflings as a race. You could have tieflings as an affliction. So, a character that was afflicted by this thing or this element could have just been an immortal, and then was afflicted by it by consuming the blood of, or ritual, or even a interdimensional axes or something that they flipped into. And now whenever their abilities are expressed, they become this other thing, growing horns and gaining this like demonic personage or whatever. They just become this other individual that is doing right, but using the wrong ways to do it. There was a series of comic book characters. I want to call them superheroes, but it was based on celestial and demonography. And there was like a Catholic priest. I don't know the name of it. It was a Catholic priest that embraced someone was possessed, and he embraced the demon so that it would leave the possession, the child alone, and came into his body. And so he was using his, I guess you could say, his goodness to keep the demon in check. So he looked like a Catholic priest, but he had like red skin, and like his hair was on fire and stuff like that, and had the horns and whatnot. So yeah, stuff like that. Zevron said, got the idea based off of a game that came out recently, and thought it would be interesting for a tiefling to split their demonic or diabolic heritage. Their human side sees a giant evil rage monster. I could see that. I could absolutely see that. And why not? We really don't have limitations when it comes to role-playing games, rules or not, right? It's most things we can do narratively, and I would absolutely allow that to happen. I mean, why not? Okay, let me give you a strange thing here. A player makes up, say, a human character, and later on says, you know what, I would really like my character to be a tiefling. Why not have that be a goal, and just by 5th level, they change their character, right? Like, why not allow that to be something that maybe they're intrinsically connected to this other evil thing that happens to them? Dead Man brings up, like, Hades in the Hercules movie. Yeah. And I assume you're referring to the animated version. But yes, very much like Hades and Hercules. Well, more broadly in mythology, there's always been the idea of the hero going down into hell to return someone to the mortal world. And this could be going into any place, going into a mirror world or someplace, into a dream world, and they bring something back with them. And so the act of going is the heroic thing, but the act of bringing something back with them, something dangerous, is the problem. For example, the movie, both the good and bad version of the movie Flatliners, is an idea as well, trying to clerics, or even whether if you're doing something medieval, Dungeons and Dragons style, or even future, people trying to pierce the barrier between life and death, and they bring something back with them, and such. Zevron says, "Is there a spell that does this, Raw?" No, under my rule, it does now. Exactly. Yeah, is there a spell that does this? Rules is written? No. But under my rule, yeah. And like I said, there's no RPG police, right? You can do whatever the hell you want at your own table, including having two separate character sheets, And let's be honest, you don't need to, in a way, you don't even need two character sheets. Like if you play, let's say let's go very basic here. You want to make a barbarian, but you also want to pick the sage background. Like I want to make a character who's like this nerdy, book kid, but I also want to play a barbarian character. And sure, I'm not going to, dump everything into intelligence. Maybe he's got like a 12 to 14 intelligence, but the rest are, bumped up into my barbarian physical skills. There's nothing stopping you from saying, hey, I'm a weakling that walks around, but when threatened, I become this raging thing that's hairy, or describe it any way you want to. It doesn't need to be hairy. You can have green skin if you want to, and becomes this other thing under threat, but it could be done instantly. I mean, even there are many storylines that have been both in the movies and in the comic books where Bruce Banner has said, hey, I've tried to kill myself and I can't die because the Hulk takes over, including putting a gun in his mouth, right? I don't know where it was said, but I remember him even saying, yeah, I tried to blow myself away and I spit the bullet out of my mouth, trying to jump off a building and he turns into the Hulk, tries to burn himself or explode himself, and he comes out and exists on the other end. So you could say that this character instantly changes from one to the other, and just play it up and allow the story to be told the way it is, as opposed to being one individual. Zevron says the main antagonist in the game has a lust for power, but his body is failing and he knows he has reached his limit. So he splits himself in two, a human and a demon king usurper. The heroes now must beat this man's demon side. Ooh, I like that. And you never know what that kind of connection could bring about. So in other words, like from the second Hellboy movie, if you kill one, you may kill the other. Hey, Mythos, what's going on? You could kill one, and by killing one, you could kill the other. There could be power in this other demonic or powered being, maybe immortal or unaffected by what the players do, unless they focus it through the weaker human side. Or it could even be a player character who is suffering more and more psychological harm because their evil side is doing so many things and they can see it. And maybe the link is like a scrying thing. They can see through their eyes, each other's eyes, and they can hear what each other is hearing, and maybe even what each other is thinking. A dead man says the gun in the mouth was mentioned in Infinity War. Yes. I couldn't remember when it was mentioned, but yes, the gun in the mouth. Are you sure it's Infinity War? I thought it was like Age of Ultron. But it doesn't, where it was mentioned doesn't matter. The fact of the matter was it was mentioned. There is even a storyline where in the comics where Bruce Banner has gotten old and frail, and he ends up falling over, having a heart attack. And then when he wakes up from the heart attack, he's the Hulk, and the Hulk realizes that he's finally left alone, like he's the last person on Earth. And he realizes that he could never become Bruce Banner again. And even though the Hulk's always screaming about, puny mortal and leave me alone, the story ends with the Hulk feeling like he truly is alone with only himself and like giant cockroaches that exist on the Earth. As everyone says, they flat out know by the end, the human side wishes to refuse and bring him back reformed. So they try to keep him away from the demon, especially as time goes by, he gets weaker. He knows if he doesn't reform, he dies. So he wants to reform. Oh, I get it. So now that's another thing where you can add intention. time, energy, and resources build tension. So maybe that could be like a tips and trick video. But anyway, uh, time, energy, and resources. So time is a very, very blunt weapon that we as DMs and GMs can use, and it is perfectly acceptable to use it. And just like the timer on a bomb, timer on a building about to collapse, a timer on a forest fire creeping closer, a timer on floodwaters rising, or a dam about to burst, knowing that this individual is frail and they have a time limit on their life, and this other evil thing is trying to either escape or bond with them or reform or even kill their human side, and the PCs have to figure out how to do it. It is a great way to keep pushing the players forward, and instead of basically canceling out analysis paralysis. In the beginning, sure, you could say there's months, but then months turn to weeks, weeks turn to days, days turn to hours, hours turn to moments. So you could really start pushing it like, guys, you really need to make a decision. It's like, well, we've traveled thousands of miles and this thing is still getting closer. Mythos says, Sally off the bed, just wanted to say hi. Man, that's all right, man. Thank you very much for saying hello. Good to have you here, even for just a moment. Zevron says the character's skin begins to crack and turn to dust. He already is frail and uses a cane, but is getting hard to even hobble with the cane. And of course, that means now we go from time to energy and resources, right? This character has no energy to expend, so they can't move. They might be bedridden. It might be dangerous to move them from one place to another, unless they have powerful magics or technologies like putting them in a cryo sleep, or somehow having to use a ritual or chemical salves on their skin over and over again to keep them around, or potions or elixirs or something. But even those are starting to fail over time. I believe the character Elric of Melnibone, the about to say Stormbringer series. And anyway, Elric, pale, albino, elven-like with the god-killing sword. Anyway, long story short, he took things to increase his frailness while wielding the sword, the black razor, what have you. And those things were starting to fail him as he got older and became more immune to those things. In the game, the character fights with familiars since he's weak, a bird that casts lightning spells, a panther that can turn into spikes and blades, a giant blob monster. Oh, that's a great character concept as well. Like, absolutely, like a conjurer wizard. Well, yes, and you could also just reskin the hell out of everything. Instead of just saying I cast a web spell, it could be there's spiders coming out of the wizard's clothing that shoots out webbing, and just reskin it as a living spider that's doing it for them. But yes, absolutely, conjurer wizard, of course. And also, the one thing that we understand as story readers and people who embrace the Hulk character, but of course the people around them don't, is that we know that the Hulk is doing the right thing, right? You might be out of control, but the Hulk honestly just keeps taking revenge on the people who deserve it. And so the idea of the public not understanding where the rage comes from, where the Hulk knows that there's bullies around. The old show, the Hulk TV show was David Banner. Why they changed his name from Bruce to David was stupid. But anyway, the don't make me angry, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry individual, he wandered the countryside, basically like the old wandering cowboy stories, but this was in modern day. And he get these odds and end jobs on these farms in the Midwest, United States, and bullies would come by and want to take the property, or abuse the young daughter, or some landowner wants to build something across this person's property, so on and so forth. And they get violent. And what happens? Bruce Banner gets involved in it. They punch him in the face. They kick him in the stomach. He falls behind a car. And then all of a sudden, boom, ripping out of his clothes. And he starts throwing people, across fields and things like that. And even though there's destruction left in his wake, we know that he wouldn't hurt a fly, right? The Hulk goes off and a small butterfly lands on his shoulder or his finger, and or a soft rain comes down, or he sees a rainbow or whatever, or a young girl, isn't frightened of him and starts to sing, or maybe he scares a young child and he's afraid of hurting the young child. And we know that, and even as a PC, they know that, but the public doesn't. And so that constant conflict is something that you'd have to deal with as a character like that, but a great concept anyway. Getting back to the chat, um, I don't think when Hulk was battering Thor Ragnarok, he deserved it. I don't know. Let's remember that Thor knocked the Hulk in the chin with his hammer, and the Hulk's been pissed off about that ever since, right? I'm joking, but yes, but it is true. I mean, the Hulk is a big kid, right? No kid wants to be beat up. He wants to, get him back. And we saw what happened when the Hulk got his rear end kicked by Thanos. So Living Let Dice says the inner turmoil and angst would be the fun RP element to explore with an RPG version of the Hulk. Of course, you definitely have to have a player character embrace the weakness to exploit the strength, right? That the inner turmoil and angst, the damage that they've done, the fact that they can't control it, the fact that they're being hunted. What a strange but interesting character concept, especially in, say, a level system like Dungeons and Dragons, where really the character's trying to get rid of what's inside of them, but at the same time, they're getting stronger and stronger, and playing up the fact that they're going from 5th to 6th level, but narratively, they're like, no, he's getting a stronger hold of my soul, and I've got to resist it. But really what they're doing is they're just leveling up. But I think that's a great idea, right? Sure, are there air quotes rules for that? No, but I'd let that happen. Hell yeah. Zevron said Bruce's middle name is actually David, and Dead Man and Storyteller says because Bruce was considered to be too close to Brute. Yeah, Bruce David Banner, was it? Oh, okay. I believe you can find this came out of Stan Lee's mouth, that he was told by TV producers that the name Bruce and Brute was not only close, but it had somehow the producers related it to somewhat of a homosexual lifestyle. This was mentioned by Stan Lee. I never thought of it that way, but Stan Lee was told by a TV producer that they wanted to change his name from Bruce to David for the television show. Now, how true that is, I'm sure some TV producer probably said that to him. Their real reason for changing that, I guarantee you, I didn't make that up at all. I'm sure if you type in, go to YouTube and just type in, Stan Lee, Hulk name change, maybe. I'm not sure exactly how you look that up, but yes, I think that's idiotic. It's so stupid. But that being said, let's be clear, his name doesn't matter, right? I mean, really, you could call him Mr. Hyde or Dr. Jekyll, right? There was even a BBC show called Dr. Jekyll, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was called Mr. Hyde, but there was a modern version who was a descendant from the original Dr. Jekyll. Yeah, Ricker says, I mean, Bruce Wayne wasn't a problem for Adam West's show. yeah. Zebra says, how does one determine you live a homosexual lifestyle? By a name? Dude, listen, different time, different place, and neither here and then. Idiotic. I guarantee idiotic, but whatever. But let's get back to the Hulk. All right. Now, I think not only I think the idea of creating a character like the Hulk, and when I say like the Hulk, I mean that very generally. Whether yeah, Rickard says morons have and always will be moronic. Yeah, that is a true thing. That is so true. Yeah, common sense is neither common and doesn't make sense, right? But the idea that you're narratively playing this person that transforms transforms from one to the other. And like you guys said up earlier in the chat, the DM could make something you silly Sam. The DM could make some kind of random check or work with the PCs to say, hey, let's randomly roll to see when you change or how you change, or maybe there's situations where you do change and you don't want to. For example, you come into town, let's say it's a medieval town, and you come into town and there's people around, and then maybe the city guards are kicking around, the orphan kids, and the player character's like, uh-oh, I can't, I don't want to see this. And it's like, hey, listen, you know how it is. Your inner beast wants to do something about this. And it's like, yeah, but I can't rage out, you know. But again, the city guard grabs one of the kids and smacks him across the mouth. And once they see that bloody nose, they're like, oh, I got it. Mofo, I'm gonna have to put some mofos down, right? I'm gonna have to like open up a can of whoop ass. And that could be a thing where the other PCs are like, oh no, don't do it. We came here to besiege the king. Don't get in the fight, not yet. It could get out of control. There could be a PC who just wants direct shop. That's all they want to do, which you have to talk to them. And if they're honest with you as a DM or GM, just create storylines where you allow them to go berserk. But another thing too is, and this is a kind of a problem with the Hulk, is that some of the storylines can be monster of the week style, and that can get a little bit boring. Rickard says, I think a lot of the things we talked about, the Hound would also work for the Hulk if we don't use the transformation shtick. I absolutely agree. There's always this idea of everyone thinks this person is this evil, bestial, rampagey, uncontrolled thing. But once they embrace like the small child, or have to watch out for the innocent villagers, or the orphan kid, or the frail doctor or something, they embrace this individual and they become the ultimate protector, right? They're the ones who would never hurt a fly. It's the John Wick theory as well, right? Of course, John Wick isn't a monster, or has one inside of him, but it's like, live and let live. And now you're bringing me out of the sidelines, and now I've got to wreck shop. Live and Let Dice says, I think a ranger with intermittent levels of barbarian rage, or an NPC class from Pathfinder reskin for any system with other class levels accessible in a DM determined rage check would work. Sure, absolutely. Wisdom saves or percentile roll or something like that. And yeah, absolutely. There's nothing stopping us from allowing like a barbarian rage to be truly rage induced, not just I wield my axe and I yell, but could literally be I go through a transformation. Why not allow that to happen, and why not let that be a thing, especially in your game setting? And for example, you could even let the character be a different race. So let's say your world is primarily humanocentric. Like most beings in your world are human, but you could just reskin the races. So for example, those who suffer from dwarfism could just be reskinned as humans, but they just happen to be dwarves or halflings or something like that. Whereas this person has taken this chemical or is corrupted by a ritual, or like we said before, any number of ways, and they become dragonborn when they rage out. And so now you would, of course, in your setting, you have to say that, there are no air quotes dragonborn, but you've found a concoction of, the dragon kind. And when you rage, you become this dragon-like creature, humanoid dragon-like creature. And then when it's over, you turn air quotes human. And that could just be a narrative rather than a real, actually having the need two character sheets, unless you want to surprise a player character and go, yeah, I control your character sheet when you rage, which has its own problems as well. Zevron says maybe the wizard can place glyphs on their body to use as a safeguard and control the transformation at the cost of a spell slot. I would let that. I would go with that idea as well. In the television show Once Upon a Time, the Little Red Riding Hood character wore a red riding hood to keep her from transforming into a werewolf. So a trinket or a magically an arcane focus could also be a way of stopping the transformation. So if they drop it or they stop using their arcane focus, they can then change, creating a wizard barbarian style or maybe even sorcerer barbarian combination. So everyone says as a way to have the player not worry about transforming in certain places. I would let that happen. I would, especially if you don't want to do the constant, okay, you're meeting strangers and something happens, you're going to transform all the time. This way, at least they can temporarily, associate in and around humanity. So I would allow that to happen as well. Living That Dice says a multi-class character could allow for fun role play where taking the Jekyll class level would be their story arc, like researching cures or fighting the rage. Okay, I could see that. Like they've gotten to 8th to 10th level barbarian and they start taking other levels of bard or wizard or something as their growth in trying to regain their humanity. I could see that too. Living Like Dice says, loved Once Upon a Time. Yeah. It Once Upon a Time kind of touched a little bit of like the inner child in me. So yeah, I loved it too. There's something innocent about good being good and bad being bad and stuff. Anyway, Rickard says, true love being a thing as well. But Rickard says, no, you let the player control the character, but you don't hand them the sheet. Just tell them you can hit things with your fists. The rest they would need to figure out themselves. Okay, I have no problem with that. That would be kind of cool. So they could uncover little things as they play. So I like that idea as well. That way, at least you already have enough on your plate if you're the GM or the DM, or storyteller or what have you. So I think Rickard's idea is far better than mine of controlling the character sheet. Yeah, just hold it off and then let them discover little things here and there. Kind of like the Hulk realizing he can jump like a half mile or something. Living Let Dice says, I've made villains based off Rumpelstiltskin character elements for fun. So much villain fuel in that. Yeah. And we know there are many, or rather plenty of stories to tell in it, but we also know that there comes a limit to it. So just like the Hulk in the comic books, Gray Hulk, Intelligent Hulk, Red Hulk, She-Hulk, Hulk and Banner being split in half, combining back together again, World War Hulk being off planet, those stories are things where you may have to pull those threads when the Monster of the Week storyline starts to get really old. So, for example, the Hulk goes into town, bullies are in town, Hulk wrecks shop, beats up villains. Again, we wash, rinse, repeat. After a while, that player character might be like, okay, I'm tired of my character being hunted. I'm tired of not having control. Can we tell something else? And doing a Hulk Gladiator Spartacus kind of storyline is a way to like mix that up. Or yeah, can we do something else? And maybe an ancient wizard combines their personalities together. So temporarily in this on this island, they have control over both sides, and they realize they could either retire here and maintain their humanity or return back to society and continue righting wrongs, but they will still lose control. That could also be a thing as well. Zevron says a character Dead Man brings up Scar. Do you mean I don't know why the animated Lion King comes to mind, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. Sorry, dude. I'm not grasping. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not grasping it. Zevron says a character I played was once a former slave, an elf mage used as a servant and bodyguard that was experimented on by magical crystal to have it carve. I'm thinking have it carved in his flesh to amplify his strength and used as a bodyguard executioner under the master's control. And see again, there's a great way where you have this person who's been like cursed and blessed at the same time. Like they're blessed with these powers, but the act of what this individual did to them is the curse. And it's like, well, on one hand, I'm using it for good, but on the other hand, I really wish it never happened to me in the first place. And so that's what a great way to tie the player character into some of the big bad elements you have in your world. So maybe the influx of trolls or bugbears or something, or lizard folk or whatever have you in your world, like they're intrinsically connected to one of the player characters. And the other player characters are looking back and forth like, dude, you look just like them. And they're like, yeah, I know. And we need to stop this person stop them from creating even more of those people like me. It's the 30 Days of Night storyline in the movie, right? The hero becomes infected with a vampiric blood to save everyone, but slowly starts transforming into, the NPC, air quotes, NPC vampire. And so, sits upon the hillside in the snow waiting for the sun to rise after those 30 days. Rickard says, that would be a fun session. Combat starts. PC says, I rage. PC, I'm going to try and jump over that obstacle. DM rolls dice behind the screen. DM says, okay, you land a mile away. Yeah. That's a thing that I've used and been a part of when it comes to superhero gaming. But I would, what a great way to steal that and put that in your own role-playing games, right? I want to discover what I can do, roll the dice. And the character's like, I'm probably not going to be able to jump over that crevice. Rolled. You only got an 8. You only land a mile away. What? Yeah, you jumped over the crevice and the countryside and the farmland. And yeah. Dead Made a Storyteller says, in one of the Hulk strength characters, in one of the Hulk, I'm guessing episodes, strength characters is one of the animated Hulk series. I'm thinking, I know there's a Hulk, one Hulk animated series. He's surrounded by other strong characters like Doc Samson and like the Gray Hulk version and stuff like. I can't remember the name of that series. And I'm not going to look it up. I'm not going to get top-headed. I'll dive too deep. Zephron says, "Oh God, that weird ass movie." Oh yeah, I don't remember the name of it. Anyway, Living Let Dice says a really cool arc is the temporary respite type arc where the rage is under control, but the pull to be a hero is stronger than the pull to be normal. And this could even be a third class like Warlock. You know what? That is part and parcel of the storyline of the Hulk, right? Where it's hey, I've got a cure for you if you take this thing. Hell, even in the second Hulk movie, Ed Norton movie, it's I'm trying to find a cure for this thing, and I'm going to come all the way back to the United States and find a scientist that's going to help me cure this thing and inject me with it. And there's the Abomination is rampaging, so I've got to dive out of the helicopter to hope that I transform into the Hulk. And of course they did the he falls out the helicopter and slams through a car, and it's like, oh shoot, I think he's dead. And then of course a moment later he comes crawling out of it. But that's a trope, right? It's the I have a cure in my hand, or I've taken a cure, or if I just do this one last ritual or take this one last herb, I will be cured of this thing forever. Or they do find the cure and it's like, hey, I'm done with it. Boom, boom, boom. And then of course some evil organization or individual or person they thought was their best friend takes the same thing that transformed them, and they of course start using it for evil, and the hero is brought right back into the fold. I love what Live and Let Dice says, where what if this person succumbs to the Warlock, like basically says, listen, I'm done. I've served you all, for this entire time. I'm done with it. My contract is clear. And the Warlock patron is like, you know what? You're absolutely right. But you're perfectly correct. I found somebody else. Don't worry about it. And the character's like, what? You found somebody else? who? And then he's just like, oh, that person over there rampaging. And it's like, now you could, I know a way to stop it, and I can grant you that power, but you wanted to be released from your warlock. You know, you wanted to be released from the so-called hold I had on you. But okay, listen, I gave you your freedom, not a big deal, right? And then Zevron says it's weird and different. Just make it a warlock. Sure, you and absolutely you could default to that as well, especially if it's I love the idea of of the 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 epilogue prologue where this character is like arguing, being pulled and prodded by their warlock patron to, it's like every time I try to get out, they keep pulling me back in, kind of thing. And the warlock patron is like, listen, I could let you go, but there's always other people to pick out there. You seem to be the one that seems to control it, and I don't mind. Ghost Rider is a version of the Hulk. If you really think about it, the Ghost Rider, the I can't remember the demon's name, Xanathos or Zaranathos or something like that. That is the actual name of the flaming skulled demon, the flaming bodied demon that becomes the Ghost Rider. And so it could be that, the player is like, the choice could be, if I don't accept this patronage, that this warlock will pick someone else, or that this warlock has picked plenty of other people and they're going around stopping all the other ones. Of course, they're gaining more power, they're gaining more strength, and this warlock patron might be like, you're the best, you're the best one I've endowed with my power. So yes, you can actually do that. Record says, interesting angle. The patron is the rage factor, of course. So it could be the patron is allowed to come to the earthly plane, and that is what their rage is. So temporarily they turn into this otherworldly creature on Earth, and this allows them to have a physical presence temporarily to do what they want. So the character could literally have a split personality. They could be the lawful good character that turns into like the chaotic evil character temporarily, but just before they get out of hand, they transform back to normal again. Imagine an origin where the evil knight, kills the evil fiend, and the fiend says, there's no way you can destroy me. And the paladin is like, yeah, there is. I accept you into my heart. And the fiend's like, no, I don't want to, no. And they get accepted into the paladin's heart. And so now this good person is walking around, but they're using evil power to further the goals of goodness. So yeah, I could see that. Rickard says very much Ghost Rider. Everyone says a fun thing to do is to see the player not be able to use the Hulk power. That scene when Banner tries to summon Hulk in Infinity War and he just says no. Imagine doing that while fighting a demon or dragon or other boss type. Yeah, hell yeah. Like having a player who's willing to accept GM fiat on something like that, because there would be a lot of players that are just like, you're just nerfing my character, but there could be a absolutely perfect reason why they can't do it. Well, here's a good reason. Your character just can't, you got to work late, you can't show up to the game, so your quote unquote Hulk can't come out, your Ghost Rider can't come out, and so that's why you're like in the background. and then maybe like 3 games later you're like, okay, I can join now, guys. I'm like, all right, now the Hulk can come out, and then come up with a reason why. You know what I mean? Living Let Dice says, if we expand the character into an archetype, Wolverine's Weapon X arc is another source of inspiration for this kind of character. Yeah. Well, I've always liked the uncontrolled Wolverine, the Wolverine that's like, the don't make me angry Wolverine. The I can let my berserker rage go, and if I let it go, I'm just going to like, destroy everything, rip everything down around me. There were plenty of comic arcs where Wolverine starts killing things, and all of a sudden he turns to one of his own friends, and out come the claws, and he's like growling up at like Storm or like Professor X or something like that, and someone has to like talk him down off the edge. So hell yeah. Dead man. Thank you very much. Hulk and the Agents of Smash. That was it. I was thinking Agents of Shield, and I was like, no, it isn't. It's Agents of Smash. The Hulk and the Agents of Smash. That sure is. That is so correct. Where, hey, everybody, let's all play characters with like super strength. And like, sure. Rickard says, Paladin taking the demon into their heart. Diablo 2 showed us how well that worked. well, well, yeah. And listen, as a game master or DM, why not use that as creative fuel, right? Like you don't just have to have random group of PCs and random bad guys. Maybe they literally are intrinsically connected. The bad guys literally exist off of the blood of the PCs, maybe from something in the past or something they're trying to eliminate in the future. You know, the paladin's ability to see celestials and fiends and elementals and fey creatures, maybe they weren't stored. Now follow me on this story wise, maybe they could never see that until this demon infected them. And so you could do a multi-class paladin warlock, or you could just play, you know, or what have you, and maybe that's a perfectly good reason for having literally a good paladin, a traditional paladin, classic paladin, and also playing a classic warlock, fiendish pack warlock at the same time. Zevron says, player, I would like to rage. DM says, no. Player, what do you mean I don't actually stay out of my human? The PC is just like starting to rage flip. They rage flip the table like, what? What do you mean I don't actually stat out my human? Yeah. I hear you. I could just imagine somebody rage flipping a table. It's like, the DM sitting back like, dude, you know you failed your rage thing. You didn't actually have to rage flip the table. What do you mean? Yeah. I'm sure there will be many player characters. Definitely a session 0 thing to talk about. You know, like, listen, there might be times where I'm gonna have to tell you you can't rage out, man, and that might lead to other things. You know, the idea of not being able to rage out might actually help them, like I don't know, squeeze through an opening, or a cage was set up to capture the Hulk but not capture a human being, that kind of thing. She-Hulk has done that plenty of times, where She-Hulk was in a cage and she's like, wait a minute, I could change back into my normal human self, and change back into human, and just slipped out of the bars and change back again. Zevron says, you would like the X-Men Origins game, DBJ. He turns opponents to ground beef. Funny, very funny. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna start to close this down here a little bit. I want to get out of here just a little bit early. I gotta get some breakfast in me. It is 6 a.m. in the morning here in my neck of the woods, Eastern Standard Time, and of course, I will see thee tomorrow. I believe Ant-Man is tomorrow. Zevron says, my DM let me have a magic item from a devil that amplified her devil side, allowing her to become a full devil. I believe by that point she became a bone devil. It only lasted 8 to 10 rounds, and required her to hurt a bit. I would allow things like that to happen, especially like a magic item or a boon, or like a temporary thing. You know, you go down to the 9 hells and let the tiefling character become more of a devil. Why not? It's my game, and the person wants to have fun, and they're not going to break the game really, so why not? Thanks, Living Dice. Don't make me hungry. You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry. yeah. The power of hangry. I'm so angry. Hangry. Go into my belly. Rickard says, perfect way to introduce DM Fiat. Give them a boon that they wouldn't have without DM Fiat in the first place. Of course, right? Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm giving you this boon. And by the way, boons are actually in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So technically it's not out of the rules, but you get what I'm saying, and I get what you're saying, right? DM says, hey, I'm going to give you this thing so you could change it to a bone devil, but I control when it happens, right? It's like, here's the gift, but also here's a limitation, which is what the Hulk is, right? Here's the gift and the limitation. So yeah. I'm actually nicer when I'm hungry because you want another slice of pizza. You're not willing to give that up. So, but anyway, guys, Thank you for joining me. Wow, 8 people in the chat. Or 8 people in chat, 8 people viewing. Appreciate you guys being here. Yeah, we're getting closer to endgame. Thought we'd have some fun. Thought of some ideas we can steal, whether it's becoming a PC. We didn't dive too deep into being an NPC or even as a bad guy, like a big bad. But sure, I mean, guys, you understand what's happening. Ricker says, "Take care, mate. Take care of yourself, guys. Love you guys for joining in. As always, you give me RPG fuel. So I hope I'm giving back something." Do we really need to smash? Absolutely. Smash that like button if you want to, or whatever. Guys, have a great one. I will see thee tomorrow. I believe tomorrow is Ant-Man and that this list was given to me by those in the chat. So for Game of Thrones, of course, guys can give me some ideas. That'll be later in the week. Don't do it right now. I'll probably end up forgetting. But guys, I'll see you later. Have a great one. See ya. Bye.